Okay, so we're all loaded up again. I updated the scenery that was causing the crash, I think. Um, I've got my little 3D printer window going again. It's coming along. Uh, I have it paused right now, so we're sort of frozen in space. Um, I'm going to start it up. I think it shouldn't. It should be able to reestablish its autopilot stuff, and we're going to see what happens. So here we go. You can see on the situation indicator here that we're just north of the course we want to be on. And as we get closer, this line is going to come in. And then as that happens, it's going to turn us to match our heading. I don't know why the altitude wasn't doing what I wanted it to. I've never really gotten the hang of the altitude for autopilot, like how to... I can usually get it to work, but it's definitely not the way it's meant to work. My performance has just turned into utter garbage, which means that we're loading Toronto. I can actually see the buildings in Toronto. I can actually feel the difference in how my computer's handling, having to process everything. good news is it isn't actively crashing. Bad news is it's really choppy. Hey Jay, how's it going? Slightly better, not much better. I have to agree with you, Jay. I think it was your idea actually to start live streaming these like months ago. It took me a little while to get the hang of it properly. I'm getting there. Yeah, for me the flight simulator side of things is totally worth the price of entry for VR. I got my Vives like the week they came out, and it wasn't cheap. And I play like a lot of different games on it. Like I've got Skyrim VR, Fallout 3 VR, a bunch of like the special VR only titles like budget cuts and stuff like that. But if all I could do with VR was the flight sim stuff, it would be worth it. It's I can't go back to playing games normally. It will never happen. I like if I can sit on the couch and play, then I'll play certain games. Like Leah and I have been playing Divinity 2. We've gotten back into WoW during this shutdown just to have something to do. And but if I can't sit on the couch with a Steam controller and play, I want to be in VR. That's the only way to do it. Unless you're flying over Toronto and your performance sucks. Yeah, I think Vahe's brother got it too. I think over Christmas. Um, it's the PSVR is nice if you don't want to have to deal with things not working. The problem I have with this is it's super flexible. I can do a million things with it. I can fly this. I can play dirt rally with this. I drive trucks with it. I've got a force feedback wheel that's not working right now, but normally I can do that in VR too. But the flip side of it is because it's so functional, I guess, is that it's often not functional. I routinely, like 60-70% of the time, if I get home or I'm at home and I'm like, I'm going to do VR right now, I will spend 45 minutes troubleshooting an issue. Now, it could be my video card was, when VR came out 3 years ago, it was the lowest card you could get that would do VR. And I've still got that. I think it's just a GTX 970. Not a high-end card by any means. But I'm used to it now. I'm the stuttering in high-demand games when I'm moving around doesn't make me motion sick anymore. Like right now, I'm probably getting 15 frames a second, maybe 10. I'm used to it enough that it doesn't bother me. I know once I get past Toronto, it'll clear up. Like in real life, when you get through Toronto, things tend to speed up. That happens in VR when you're flying too. I'm going to try pulling back some visibility here. I'm wondering if that'll help. Now that I'm not in the actual sim, I'm totally responsive. I'm going to bring my visibility back like there. This is going to make it really hazy, but hopefully the haze makes it so it doesn't have to draw all the buildings. Maybe it'll make it worse. I don't know what's going to happen. I just saw your question, Jay. If you didn't hear me a second ago, which is possible, I might have not had I forget to put my finger on the button, and I just sit here talking. I have a GTX 970. I think it's a 4 gig card. Well, that cleared things up. Yeah, I've got a little plugin that like tweaks into the graphics settings and hacks the so I can change things up. I'm just going to take a screenshot here from outside. Just made our turn over Billy Bishop towards Hamilton. I'm totally floored by how much faster things have gotten since I made that tweak. So if I have this little plug-in in auto mode, things are running pretty good. If I switch it to sim mode, apologies if I crash this stream doing this, it might happen. I'm happy with that. Hey Jesse, I'm printing ear savers for masks for health workers. There's a group here in St. Thomas that's looking for donations. I think they've got an order for several thousand for care homes. So I had started to print the shields, the big face shields that Prusa has on their website, but I can't find the clear material. It's like, and I don't want to go like just out and about shopping because social distancing, but this is needed too, and I can run off 8 of these. Actually, I can run off 4 trays, a tray an hour, so 8 an hour. I can do almost 40 of these in the time it takes to do one headband for a face shield. And there's already tons of 3D printing companies doing face shields. It's not that they're not needed. They probably need more than what they're being provided, but I can make these and not have to worry about finding the clear shield material and sourcing a way to cut it and making sure it's the right stuff. Have a good shift, Jay. Good talking to you, man. So we're just flying by Hamilton now. So I think the way it sped things up for me was by taking out the road overlays. So when I build my scenery, it's a few steps. I think at some point I might do a video of how my procedure works, of how I do stuff. Basically, I extract the map data from Open World Map, which is a free community-based. It's like the Wikipedia of Google Maps. It's user editable, changeable, and it's pretty all-encompassing. Like, you can put buildings into the map data, so you can draw the boundaries of where a building would lie on the property, and then specify information about that building. So if you look at our place, you can actually see the outline of our house on our property on this map. And if you click on it, you can see that someone put that data there. And when they did that, they wrote about it that it was formerly a house of worship and now it's a private residence, which is, I think, it's kind of neat. There might be issues with privacy, I guess. That's sort of the default place you go to when you hear about stuff like this. But what's handy about it is that data can then be extracted. So I have a program. It's actually for making cycling maps to plug into cycling GPSs. But it can also extract it for whatever data you need, because it's just data, and it creates a file that can be read by another program that actually will approximate the buildings and draw buildings where there's buildings. So if I'm flying over St. Thomas, for example, there's buildings in the shape of the buildings that are in St. Thomas. It doesn't know what they look like from the outside. So it just knows that, like, the St. Thomas Mall is shaped like an L, and the L's coordinates are at these GPS coordinates, and the building is usually about that high, so it draws a building that high, which makes really good simulation when you're flying around there. So then I input that data and create data files that I put into the X-Plane program, and then I use another program that actually goes to Google Maps and pulls what are called the ortho photos. So it's the Google Map data from when you're looking down, so the aerial photos. They're all tagged with GPS coordinates. So it lays those out in the right spot in the virtual world it's creating, and then we can see buildings and yards and stuff. Only downside is it doesn't have seasonal texture, so the texture is what it is. So if it's winter time, you can't really tell by looking at the ground. Everything looks green, unless the picture was taken by Google in the winter, because then everything looks white. But the trade-off is totally worth it. The amount of I forget what the word is I'm looking for. I want to say integration. That's not it. Not symmetry. I'm getting close. I'll think of it in a second. If anybody's watching and can think of the word I'm looking for, it'd be much appreciated. It's not a hard word. This is a cool spot. 16,000 feet up, over top of Hamilton. I can see Lake Ontario and Lake Erie at the same time. I think it's Lake Erie. Something on my computer is disconnecting and reconnecting. I don't know what it is. There's no message popping up to tell me what's showing up and disappearing, but it's really annoying. I have a feeling I have a little USB number pad next to my flight yoke here that I'm using as a push to talk button. I think it's that. I don't know. I think that airport that I'm flying over right now is Hamilton, based on the fact that I'm over Hamilton. I should have another turn coming up, and hopefully a descent, if I programmed it right. So one of the reasons I'm doing this with autopilot like this is because I really wanted to learn a bit more about the functions of the G1000 system, or the X1000 as it's called in X-Plane. I actually get to install not the actual screens themselves, but a lot of the wiring and components for this kind of system. Not in this model of plane, but similar idea. And just wanted to learn a bit more about the actual autopilot functionality when it comes to navigating vertically. So this plane doesn't have an auto throttle, so when it's using autopilot for altitude, I think it can only tell you what to do. So we are at, I don't think I'm on the right setting because I'm stuck on 16,000 and it's telling me it wants me to go somewhere else. It wants me to go down at 1,000 feet per minute. I'm over top of where I want to be for this part of my trip based on that arrow. So I'm going to change my setting and see if we can make this a bit better. probably could in this plane. I don't think it's advised to do a loop-the-loop, though. I have other planes that can. I do some flying around in some. I've got a Mitsubishi Zero that'll do that. Actually, I've got a Cessna 152 that'll do it for a little while until the fuel doesn't reach the engine anymore. Thanks, Raymond. I feel like even if it goes really bad, I'll be okay. Although I have banged my face on the yoke before, which is in the real world sitting right in front of me. In VR, I can't see it, so I have hit it pretty hard once or twice. All right, we've crossed under 10,000 feet, so I'm going to shut off the oxygen and get rid of that annoying hiss. Hey Jay, thanks, man. I think we're coming up around Tilsonburg right now. After that, it won't be too far to St. Thomas. So mainly because I didn't know how to use the autopilot properly, it didn't start our descent until well past when it was supposed to. So we're about 3,000 feet higher than I wanted to be at this point. I wanted to be passing over Tilsonburg at 2,700 feet. That didn't happen because I'm at 6,100 feet. It's not a big deal. I'm just going to have to circle a bit when we get to St. Thomas and get into the right altitude for my approach. So we're just 4 minutes out from St. Thomas. I haven't completely decided how much scenery I wanted to load, because it is really nice having it smooth like this. But every time I put a building in, it adds to the work that my computer has to do, and it slows everything down.
All doors. Park brakes. Alternate static source. Park brakes. ATC request engine start. Right engine master. Avionics master. Autopilot. ATC request taxi. Switch MFD to system. Power levers. All doors. Taxi lights. Power. Climb power. Power. Descent power. Adjust. Annunciators /ENG inster. /breakers. Check. G1000 altimeter. Set QNH. MD302 altimeter. Set QNH.
You can see St. Thomas Airport just over my nose here. I'm going to switch my autopilot off of GPS and just have it follow a heading. I'm descending to just about 1,000 feet above the ground.
Approach power. Adjust. Annunciators /ENG inster /breakers. Check. ATC request landing. Request. Alternate air. Close. Gear /fire test button. Push and test. Park brakes. Check release. Fuel selectors. Both on. Flaps. T/O. Landing gear. Down 3 green. Fuel pumps. Both on. Landing lights. On. Flaps. Pull down. Yaw damper. Off. Autopilot. Off. After touchdown.
That wasn't the most graceful transition into approach I've ever done. I was trying to tweak settings for the amount of objects that were out and also have it be smooth. So I think I found a balance.
Power idle. Flaps.
I'm happy with that.
Full up. Fuel pumps. Both off. And set park brakes.
Really helps when I'm not landing with a 30 knot crosswind 90 degrees from the runway, which feels like what I'm always doing whenever I use real world weather now. So this is the St. Thomas Airport that I modeled. I actually used models from an add-on piece of scenery for Microsoft Flight Simulator. I got the permission of the guy that made that plugin. I had to convert all the models and learn how to do that, and then manually place them where they go based on their location on the maps and stuff. It's not exact, but it's pretty good. I forget the gentleman's name who made the original plugin, but yeah, I haven't shared this out yet. I haven't finished it. There's a lot of details I want to clean up in it, like boundaries of the pavement to the grass, and there's some grass where it's using Google Earth imagery. So like there's grass, and then there's a really out of focus picture of an airplane from the sky on the grass. So I've been wanting to clean that stuff up, but just haven't been able to find the time.
Set. Strobe light. Off. Landing lights. Off. Taxi lights. On. Transponder. STBY. Flight director. Off. Pitot heat. Off. All trims. Neutral. Park brake. Release. And set park brakes. Set. Power set, 1 minute. 10%. Avionics master. Off. Engine master. Both off. Power levers. Both idle. Fuel selectors security. Both remove. And fuel selectors. Both off. Exterior light switches. All off. DI switches. All off. Voters switches. Both auto. Fuel pumps. Both off. Pitot heat. Off. Flaps. Full up. Emergency alt. Armed. Alternate static source. Close.
The fact that this
Oxygen
uses
lever.
just a voice synthesizer
Pushed.
to
Alternate air.
talk makes it even
Close.
funnier when the bad
Fuel pumps
spelling
auxiliary.
for this checklist
Both
meets
off.
it. And emergency
Instruments light.
is the word that gets said.
Dim. Flood and cabin lights. Dim. Cabin defrost. Off. Cabin temperature. Off. All breakers. In. Electric master. Off. All doors. Open. Wheels chokes. Set. De-ice fluid and oxygen bottle. Fill. All doors. Close.
So that's it. That's the whole flight I was planning to do. So this was like a part, well, this is part 3 of this flight. If you've missed all my other posts from before, this was the continuation of my cross-country flight, where I took a Cessna 150 from Tofino, British Columbia, all the way to St. John's, Newfoundland, in real time, without a GPS, navigating only by charts and looking out the window and using some navigation radios, like VOR and NDBs and stuff like that. That took a while. Like I started that last July. I took a few months where I was doing other things and didn't fly for a while. But eventually I finished it last week. Now that we're all stuck at home, I had a bit of extra time. So I finished that one, and then I'm still stuck at home, trying to decide what to do. So I figured I would fly back home to what would be my home airport, closest to where I live, in one of the planes that I get to work on. Not as much as I used to, but a Diamond DA62, which is a lot faster and can go a lot higher than a Cessna 152. I also allowed the use of GPS in this flight, and full autopilot, and I set the weather to only work in my favor. So for a good lot of the flight, I had a 35 knot tailwind. That never happens. And I forgot the one landing I did, I forgot to turn the wind off, and I gave myself a 10 knot crosswind. And then I almost drove off the runway because I wasn't thinking there was a wind. But yeah, so that was it. I'm going to do more flying videos coming up. I've got some things I want to try. I'm trying to get my scenery and settings all squared away for getting the best performance out of VR, out of an older video card like I've got. I've also got some fun things to fly. I've got a T6 Texan, which is essentially a Harvard, that I've gotten to fly in real life. But I've flown a little bit in VR, and I might do that some more. Maybe also an auto gyro or an ultralight maybe zipping around Toronto now that I've got Toronto scenery worked out. Anyway, that's it for now. I'm going to sign off. Thanks for watching. For those of you who shot me messages, now that I've got chat working inside the airplane, it was nice to hear from you. And I will talk to you again at some point.